Where does it all go down? Where can I go in this town? Where do all the boys hang around? At the Ocoee Cigar Lounge.
Welcome to Ocoee Cigar Lounge. I'm Chuck Swafford, also known as Blue, and you are cigaring with Chuck. Today we have with us Mr. Paul Dominguez. Paul, now many times we say on our show that we're not really aficionados but lovers of the cigar. Paul's actually an aficionado. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Just happy as all get out to get here.
Paul, we're going to smoke today Foundation Cigar, the Tabernacle by Foundation Cigars. Nice full body cigar. I know you like the full body.
Yeah.
You also like Lanceros, but this one right here is a Toro.
Right.
Is that okay with you?
Oh yeah, I smoke them all. Let's not go in there. Usually a straight cut is what I do with all cigars. The Lanceros or Torpedoes, Figurados, I usually use a V-cut. And then on the large ring gate cigars, I use a punch.
Okay.
Which is one of those things.
Paul, how did you get into cigars?
Started smoking when I was 10 years old.
10?
10 years old. Been smoking ever since. So I've been smoking cigars for 55 years. And for those people say smoking's going to kill you, here I am.
There you go. It's still sharp as a whip.
I don't know about that, but...
So at 10 years old, what gets a 10-year-old into smoking cigars?
Oh, yeah. Basically what you did when I was growing up on the south side of Chicago, you hung on the street corners. It wasn't really gangs or anything like this, just where you hung out. And one of the corners I hung around at was right across the street from an apothecary, a drugstore.
Okay.
And Louis, I still remember the guy's name. He was a card and a half and that kind of stuff. And he had a small cabinet of cigars there. So, we'd heard about smoke and how cool it is and stuff like that. But cigarettes really never did it for me. Never really had a cigarette to begin with. So the cigars looked interesting. So the first cigar I ever had, and I smoked a bunch after that, was a Robert Burns Black Watch. Came in a tube, probably about probably a Corona size. But the tube really attracted me. I like that because I could stick it in my pocket and stuff like that. It was about that big.
Okay.
And I liked it. I said, it's pretty good. So every time we hang on the corner, I'd go with that. And, back then, age didn't matter. We just hanging around, and I knew Louis. Yeah, here you go. As long as you could pay for it, you're good.
Right.
I could tell you a lot about my Chicago background that'll put hair on your head, but that's another story in itself.
I serve on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club here in the Ocoee region, which is based out of Cleveland. And you used to be a part of the Boys and Girls Club also.
Yeah. I grew up as a member on the south side of Chicago. I went in when I was 6. I grew up, I stayed there through high school, even did some volunteer work and everything. And then when I went off to college in Memphis, I got hooked up with the Memphis organization. I started working at their summer camp because they needed a lifeguard and I was there. I got my water safety instructor certification, so I ran the waterfront.
Okay.
And then I did part-time work to the railroad pubs, after summer camp was done. And then when I graduated in 1978, I figured it's time to find a job. And they told me, he says, well, look, I know Brunel Smith over there. He would love to talk to you. He needs a program director. And I says, I think I'll try that. It'd be something fun to do until I find a real job. And that's 45 years later. So.
Well, I know when I met you at the place in Ottawa, you had the handlebars and your mustache. I can't get
They're still growing back. But
so they're growing back too?
They're growing back to it. It's just easy to care for this right now.
Cool.
So that's what I do. Armagnac, which is a brandy. And the best way to explain it is just like cognac comes from a certain region in France.
Right.
Armagnac comes from a certain region in France.
Okay.
And the ongoing joke is the France exports cognac, but they keep the Armagnac for themselves. I think it's a good flavor, it's a good taste, and ever since I first started drinking it, I found it's a great companion to almost any cigar. So when I'm doing something like this, trying a new cigar, everything like that, I like to do that. And then just for yucks, to give it a little extra flavor, I throw a splash of Grand Marnier in there to give it an extra flavor. It just goes very, very well.
Grandma mean?
Grand Marnier,
Grand
which is
Marnier.
also a brandy.
Did you keep it in your little flask?
Yeah, that's why I put it. I didn't want to bring the whole bottle. But yeah, it's actually brandy, but it's considered as a orange liqueur. Actually, I use the same thing in my margaritas as well.
Paul, so did you get the whole experience of our cigar lounge? We've transitioned to the wild apricot. We call this the wild apricot in Cherokee. Ocoee means wild apricot, and that's why we call this room the wild apricot.
I think you need to change the name.
We won't change it to
Paul Dominguez Lounge, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, you got to get in line, Paul. we got a few of them
right to the top.
Right, we got a few of them that want to change their names. This is what I want to hear from you, Paul. Tell me more about Chicago, about growing up in Chicago.
I guess the statute of limitations is run out, so I guess. And again,
don't get anybody taken care of.
No, I know those guys, but you know, I used to tell people that I love to watch The Sopranos every week because I knew every one of those guys in The Sopranos. But that's another story. As a kid, I lived at 35th and Union, which is in the heart of Bridgeport, the 11th Ward. And back then it was very important. For some of the old timers, they may not remember the original Mayor Daley. Well, he was there when I was going there. And a lot of people talk about this and that, but he ran that city with an iron fist, but he made it work, which was hard in that day and age. He made it work. But actually, if I came out of my house and walked across the street and then walked through the gangway, if I was allowed to hop the fence in that alley, that was Daley's house. I mean, he was really my neighbor.
That's close.
But you could never go over his fence.
Right.
But, and again, as an altar boy, I used to have 6:30 Mass, and at 6:25, the 3 limos would pull up. It's him and his entourage. He'd go to Mass every day at 6:30. It was really, really interesting.
Mayor Daley did.
Mayor Daley. One of my favorite Daley stories is my freshman year in high school. They conned me into running for class secretary. I said, yeah, whatever. I never had to do anything. I never had to politic. I said, yeah, just throw my name out. What happened? I got elected. I don't even know how that happened. I mean, nobody knew anything about anything. It was just one of those things. But the day I got elected, the next day, I got a handwritten letter from Daley himself. Really? Congratulating me, way to keep in the neighborhood, all that stuff. I mean, flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted.
Nice.
So say what you want, but he did a good job. In addition to hanging on the street corner, as young kids, we used to always drink. I've been drinking since I was 6. I started early, but anyway. So we used to go out in the back alley, and we called it the 35th garbage can, because we had an alley and garbage cans were all in the back and stuff like that. So if you go down, you count 35th garbage can. We used to hang out there because it's a nice alleyway and stuff like that, and we'd drink and smoke and do whatever we can and stuff like that. But the problem was, there's a street lamp in the alley right above us. So you could see stuff that was going on. I said, man, we got to get rid of this thing. So sure enough, my buddy comes out with a pellet gun one day. And we're taking shots at things. It took us a while, but we finally knocked it out. Lights gone. All right, we're finally done. Great. Typical 11th Ward. We came back the next day. That thing was replaced and shedding light. I mean, nothing went wrong in the 11th Ward. That's another one of those stories, too. Outside of Warsaw, Poland, Chicago had the largest Polish population in the world. So it was, and that's what I loved about Chicago. It was a melting pot. I mean, I used to go to high school, and you've got the Asians over here, and the Chinese over here, and the Italians over here, and the Mexicans over here. And the 11th Ward was hardcore Irish. How I ended up in an all-Irish neighborhood, I never knew.
Were you treated different because you're
Mexican? No, because I fit right in with these guys and stuff. But all my friends were O'Keefe, McDonough, O'Hara, Shaughnessy. I mean, that's all I knew. But no, I was never treated any different. I was one of the guys and stuff like that. But I just enjoyed it. But we never had any problem in high school with that kind of stuff. Everybody was part of the same family. That's what you did. Chicago truly was a melting pot back then. That's what I loved about it. But going back to the head spinner, because I got a great story I got to mention. This is back in the early 90s, maybe. I met Carlito Fuente. And in fact, one of my friends, because I won some good things and stuff like that, he gave me an Opus 8, which comes in a coffin. It's like a...
Carlito's the father.
No, Carlito is the current patriarch. Arturo Fuente, Carlos Fuente,
Okay.
Carlito Fuente.
Got it.
That's what it was. But, so I took my coffin, I got him to autograph it for me, so it got really good. But anyway, so he comes to the lounge afterward, we're all sitting there. He's got his entourage from J.C. Newman, all those guys. Buys us all a round of drinks, we're having a good time, just sitting there talking to Carlito Fuente. It doesn't get any better. So we're sitting there, I'm talking to him, I says, Carl, man, I really appreciate what you do, you make great cigars and everything. And he's wearing the Guayabera jacket, he's got cigars all over the place. And he pulls one out of his pocket, he gives it to me. And it's a BBMF, which is a big bad mother. That's what they are. And you can buy them now, because they're like $100 a piece, they're ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave me, when I was looking, I said, man, it's a beautiful cigar, and I give it back to him. He says, no, you keep that. You tell everybody Carlito gave that to me. And I said, so I was looking for a time to smoke it. I wanted a special occasion. There's a couple that came out, including my son's graduation. I thought that'd be a good time and stuff like that, but I never got around it. So I just turned 65, but when I turned 60, I said, today's the day. So I went to the shop, and I had all my good cigars and everything, but I said, I want to smoke it today. And, you know, it's basically 18 years old that I've had the cigar. It's been sitting around, and it's going to lose something. I know it is. I said, just to see it. So I smoked it, and it was a really tasty cigar. And then I got up, because I thought I had to go to the bathroom, which I did. And all of a sudden I started spinning everything. I dropped back in the chair. I said, oh, God. I went to the bathroom. I'm holding onto the wall. So, yeah. Don't ever let anybody tell you aging cigars don't help, because they really, really do. But that's one of my favorite stories, man.
Paul, we've been smoking this Tabernacle from Foundation, and I really love it. I would suggest this cigar for anyone. It's a really good cigar. I'm glad you could come up here and cigar with us.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine.
And, no, it's the best.
I'll tell you very simple. I'll tell you very simple. I know it's a really good cigar when I don't want to put it down and I'll burn my fingers. And believe me, I got plenty of calluses.
Yeah.
This is one of those cigars. It's just that simple. Anybody who smokes this is doing themselves a huge, huge favor. They really enjoy this.
Well, thanks again, Paul. You've been cigaring with Chuck, and today with Paul Dominguez. We're at Ocoee Cigar Lounge. We're located in the heart of Cleveland, Tennessee, the beautiful, historic downtown Cleveland, Tennessee, at 246 North Ocoee Street. Come and see us.
Definitely come visit.